Live. Hey, we're live on both LCTV channel 22 and the WhatsApp page. And I want to thank you for coming and watching us today. I have two candidates that are available from the Budget Committee candidates from Tuesday rather. And we have Scott Taylor and Kate Stevens that are going to be joining us today. The other candidates are not here because they are running for the 3-year term. It's Derek Barca and Nikki Forty. There are 2 seats available for the 3-year term. So they are not running against each other. So to be expedient and to get people in front of you that you are actually making a decision on, I chose to only have Scott and Kate here today to give them a chance to say why they should be part of it, because Nikki and Derek are definitely going to be. I guess Derek stepped in at the last minute because that seat had remained open and would have shown that we had one short member on the Budget Committee. I want to thank LCTV for fitting us in. It's been a really busy week for them. How'd the girls do the other day, Rob?
They won, so they play tomorrow.
So they play tomorrow. Mm-hmm. What time do they play tomorrow?
2:00.
2:00 tomorrow. The girls play. Congratulations, girls. Work hard. Is that the final game or semifinals?
Semis.
The semis?
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck, girls. The Litchfield voter guide has arrived in your mailboxes. Should have come in. It's black and white. The one I showed you during the budget, the school board candidates was in color, but this is what came in my mailbox today. It's got all the candidates that are available to vote for, as well as all of the warrant articles. Jay and Pete are trying to get some time this weekend, maybe a fireside chat with Jay and Pete, showing all the budget highlights for the warrant articles. So be sure to tune into that later as well. Tuesday is voting day at Campbell High School, and the vote starts at 7 a.m. in the morning, and you can vote until 7 o'clock that night. And it's going to be 52 degrees and sunny. Next week is going to be beautiful. We have 60-degree weather on Wednesday, and we're really picking up towards spring. Honest to God, it's coming, people. I don't care about that hedgehog or whatever it was that put his little head out. And a little bit about the budgets before we get into the Budget Committee candidates. Both budgets are default and full amount budgets that are submitted. And if you vote for the default, if you vote down the operating budget and the town operating budget and the school budget, you will be actually voting in an increase for the town. I just want to make sure people understand it, especially if you're new. A lot of new people are in town this year. If you vote against the school budget, your taxes will go up by $1.01 a thousand. If you vote in the operating budget that the Budget Committee and School Board have submitted, it will be going up still, but 60 cents. So you're going to save yourself 41 cents a thousand by voting in the budget. A similar thing with the town operating budget is that if you vote for the budget that is presented by the town, you will be voting for a smaller rate increase than you would have if you vote it down and end up with the default. It's just a strange thing that happens here in New Hampshire. So read carefully, read your budget, your warrant articles carefully, and know what you're voting for. If you don't want taxes, make sure you're voting the right way. If you do want the thing, whether it's taxed or not, make sure you're voting the right way as well. And let's see. So here we go. I'm going to start with Kate. Kate, you're first time running for Budget Committee, and you're currently on the...
I'm on the planning board currently.
You're on the planning board currently?
I'm vice chair of the planning board.
Yep. And do you enjoy working on the planning board? What do you like about it?
I've been on the planning board for 3 years, and I was just recently appointed the vice chair. And I really enjoy the volunteering my time for it. And I'm an engineer, so I understand, the site plans. I can read through all that data and get an understanding of what applicants are presenting, and and I have a strong understanding of the priorities in town. So working
you
with
love
applicants
the budget,
to
the planning
fit
board is
in,
right up
right?
your alley, but you want to expand into the budget committee a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Scott, you're currently serving for a member that left the board. They called you in. You said, absolutely, I wanted to be on the budget committee, and I still want to be part of the budget committee. So you're volunteering your time, and you came in. Have you served on any other boards in town, or is this your first board?
Just sports boards.
Sports boards. Okay. Other volunteer work like that.
Exactly.
Okay. So what have you found really surprising about being on the budget committee?
I wouldn't say it would be surprising. It was just refreshing to be that person that can go ahead and start questioning things instead of just being a complainer about it.
Yes.
One of the things that I found is as soon as I received the budget information, being able to go through line by line and put together quite a few questions. Matter of fact, on the school side, it was about 60 questions that I asked of the administration just to get clarification and be able to be informed about motions that I was going to make, and then probably another 30 to 40 on the town side of things. And, it did bring up a lot of fruitful conversations. Not everything that I brought up ended up, passing as far as the cut is concerned, but at least it opened up the conversation, allowed us to, figure out what's going on.
You loved being part of the process, and obviously you still want to become part of the process.
Exactly.
And you're going for the 2-year term to finish off the term of the member who left.
Correct.
And what has actually ended up being your term. Okay. Thank you very much for stepping in like that. It's really hard to run a board like the budget committee without having all the members. And that kind of brings me to you, Kate. You're going to continue to be on the planning board, you told me.
Yes.
And you're going to expand and add the budget committee to that. Have you thought about whether or not it might be difficult for you to get both of those jobs done?
It will not be difficult for me. Right now, a couple years ago, we made the decision that I would stay home with the kids. So I'm essentially a full-time volunteer, maybe domestic engineer, I guess you could call it. And my youngest,
Whatever you call it, you've got so many hats that it's just a huge job.
And my youngest is going to be going to preschool for 4 days a week in the fall. So I'm going to feel like I have all the time in the world pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay. So, Scott, how much time do you think you are spending during budget season on the budgets?
Certainly during budget season, you're committing to at least one night a week, and it's a long, 6 to 9:30. And then the prep as far as going through all the different line items and budgets and things of that nature, you're definitely putting in, another 10 to 20 hours a week if you really want to drill down into it and take a look back into historical information to be able to get 3-year averages and see how things change from one department to another and things of that nature. It's quite a bit of time to go through from September through February.
Okay. Would you support a tax cap on the school district budget, similar to the current tax cap on the town budget? Why or why not? Kate.
That is a tough question right now, because I know one of the needs in town is something to be done about the elementary school. I do think whether or not there is a tax cap by
that would
voted
be a warrant article, though.
Whether or not there's a warrant article, it is the responsibility of the school board and the budget committee to at least strive towards keeping that budget under a certain amount. So whether or not it's a warrant article, either way, I think everybody needs to try to get their budgets in to be less than 2.5% above the previous years.
Okay, so you're looking at 2 to 2.5% increases.
Yeah. So whether or not it's by warrant article or not, and that would be like a max, that 2%, like you shouldn't even
Something
consider
special is
anything
happening.
more than that, right?
Including all the warrant articles. You feel like including all the warrant articles that may be up there too for specific things?
Like I said, there are times when special need to be made.
Right, okay.
And but year over year, you shouldn't be seeing a 2% increase. That's a very large increase.
Do you know what the increase is this year?
This year, I believe it's a decrease. It was after the budget
It's
committee, and
still
you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're
but-
absolutely correct.
right, it
It
says
is a
0.5%.
0.6% decrease year over year budget. The reason why the taxes go up is because of the reevaluation
Yes.
of the properties that caused the change as far as
I'm
why
gonna
people see a
ask you
tax
about that
increase.
in a
But yes, it
second.
is a 0.6% decrease in the school.
Well, I'm
And
gonna
it was a
start-
1.85.
We'll get to that, okay? Because I want to have you answer this question as well. Do you support a tax cap on the school district budget, similar to the current tax cap on the town budget?
I do. And the reason why is I feel that on the town side of things, it does help us in terms of having meaningful conversations about the growth of programs and how to go ahead and stagger the growth of those items. I think this COVID year was a great example of being able to go through and really sharpen our pencils and be able to get a good understanding and have departments really come up with, is this really a need or is this a strong want? What I've seen is in this town, there's a lot of strong wants that people perceive as a need.
Okay,
On the school side of things, I certainly ended up fighting with the school board member on the committee just around, is this the right time to add something like an AP physics? Now, let me make it clear, the budget committee is not responsible as far as dictating, as far as
Curriculum.
programs and things like that, but
yeah.
adding a new program and
Well, and
funding
we
that
do have, what
program.
is that, VLAX?
No, it was AP physics that they were looking to go ahead and
Right, but
add.
they can take that through VLAX as well.
You can. I mean, the sciences would definitely be
Be
very
tough.
difficult,
Yeah,
but I
they'd be
mean, on
tough 'cause
the
you couldn't
Campbell side of
hands-on.
things, we already have AP environmental science. We have AP biology. We just added AP chemistry. And now all of a sudden in a year that you're going to get less revenue from the state, that isn't a wise choice to go ahead and try to add an additional program. I understand that we're trying to beef up the STEM side of things, but we also have to look at, the timing of that and the
So
affordability.
you really are very dug into the budget, so you really know where everything has gone.
Yes.
So you do support a tax cap, and Kate has come out with that she thinks 2.5, which sounds very Massachusetts Proposition 2.5.
No, that's I'm saying
No, that was just an old thing in Massachusetts was
It should
Proposition
be a
2.5
limit.
that you could never increase them. It's just-
exactly right.
yeah.
Like whether or not it's written down as a tax cap, that needs to be something that is strove for.
strive
Like,
for, yeah.
like that shouldn't have to necessarily be written down. You have to do this.
Okay. Scott, you would actually support a written down tax cap,
Correct.
and you would, what kind of percent do you think that it should be?
I would probably fall in the same category of somewhere
2,
between
2.5.
2 to 3%. Just
Max.
realize that there is going to be a lot of pushback from the administration because if you dig into the salaries, for example, their expectation is that there's a 3% raise year over year over year over year, like especially on like the administrative side of things, and then it's built into the teacher's contract and the support contract. As I try to mention during the meetings is that, show me somebody in the private sector, especially during this last year of COVID, that is getting a 3% increase year over year over year.
Right.
More than likely, there's a lot of people that ended up having to take a pay cut just to be able to maintain their jobs.
So you're
But there
talking
is
about
quite a
overall
battle.
budget.
I'm sorry?
You're talking about just an overall budget, not necessarily increasing everything single thing. You're saying if it needs to go up, it shouldn't go up by more than
Right. My
2.5
point
to 3.
my point
2 to
is that
2.5 to 3.
Right.
when they negotiate 3.5% increases on salaries, then the problem is, it's going to be very difficult.
You're going to have to cut other things.
Exactly.
I did hear an 80% of the budget for the school is salaries. Is that correct?
It's right in that area. Yes, it's very, very. It's
I'd
a
be
high.
real
So
interested-
salaries, benefits, retirement.
I'd be really interested to see how much of that is teachers versus all the other administrative personnel. I don't know how I'd find that out. That leads me to my next question. Kate, would you be for the public having access to that line item budget that are submitted before they're finalized?
I believe they do. Do they
Yeah,
not?
I believe that
public-
the school actually puts it up on the website.
up on
Corey
the-
Isbicki does post up the spreadsheet for the public to be able to see.
Is it actually line item or is it categories?
They subtotal by category, but yes, you do see line items in there as well. Matter of fact, even if you take a look at the town report that just got released, you can actually see salaries of each individual person.
Yeah,
versus the town and the schools.
you've always been able
Yeah.
to do that. You could look at all your firemen and all of that as well. Kate, what do you think the biggest budget impacts coming down the road for the town and the school? You can answer town first.
Well, there's two different sides, but we are all one community working together, towards this one direction. So if you look at the capital improvement plan, the two very obvious next large expenses are some solution to GMS, to elementary school, and the police station. And graciously, the police chief has said that he understands if the town's greater need is an elementary school, we should work towards the elementary school.
That doesn't surprise me.
And the police, right, exactly.
Yeah, chief sergeant's amazingly
so-
accommodating for the whole town.
Exactly. So, so according to the community input survey and the capital improvement plan, the elementary school is the highest priority.
That would be for the school side. And it does also serve the town, you're right.
Yeah.
But in looking at them, the budgets occur separately. So
Yep.
in this case, I'm asking you, I agree, they're both of the same family.
Mhm.
But when you're looking at what else does the town have?
So the town has responded that it's the police station
Okay.
is the highest.
And Scott, what do you think the biggest budget impacts coming down the road are for the town?
For the town, it would definitely be the police station, number one. And then just based on this last budget session, we've heard quite a bit as far as the maintenance and upkeep as far as the library is concerned.
The library. Okay, that's interesting. And for the school?
For the school, it's definitely GMS.
Yeah, that's kind of a
The
no-brainer.
administration has been loud and clear that the state will no longer allow funding to repair that particular building. So at this point, they're really holding our feet to
Something
the fire.
needs to be done. Yeah, agreed. Okay, so what tools or strategies will you use to support reviewing budgets? This is a big thing, Kate, because I know Andrew Cutter has kind of chopped up the budget and made it much more easy for everybody to understand as far as comparisons go. He does a lot of work to present it. What strategies do you have to support reviewing these budgets?
So as an engineer, I would go through and look at what the numbers, trying to organize the budgets into buckets of, I should start over. Looking at the school budget that I've seen that was posted, it's organized in certain ways that you don't necessarily see like a whole picture of how much is being spent in certain areas. Like, what is the technology budget as a whole? It's split up by individual schools. What is the transportation budget as a whole? And Andrew Cutter's spreadsheet might organize it this way. I'm not sure because I don't have access to his spreadsheet. But organizing through that data to really understand where our largest costs are and where can things be brought down. Like, there's small potato things that you can kind of point to easily, like, do we all need Chromebooks? Do we all need this? But looking through, you really have to look through it, Scott's right, you really have to look through it line by line to really understand where the money's going, and trying to organize it to see, okay, is this bloated? Is this piece a little bit bloated?
And
Why
has
are we
it
spending this
continued?
percentage of the budget on this one particular item, one particular type of item? So,
Scott, what tools or strategies do you currently bring to support reviewing the budgets? I already have heard from you that you review it ad nauseum at home and come in with questions.
Yeah.
What other kind of strategies are you using to support Andrew and Kerry in analyzing the budgets right now?
I think the biggest difference that I bring to the table this past year is that a lot of previous members will go ahead and do a bottom line budget cut. So they'll say, you know what, I want to take $10,000 off of the LMS budget. I strongly disagree with that type of philosophy.
Yeah.
I think you should be transparent in terms of why it is that how did you come to that $10,000 and why? And let's have a discussion about, does it make sense that 10,000 is the right number? Maybe it's 8,000. Maybe we find that it's 12,000. But by going through line by line and then also taking a look at historic spend, what that growth rate is over the last 3 years. Right now we go look back to like 2017 even. So
Nice.
we can really go ahead and take a look through. And then the last piece is, taking a look at it and saying, okay, so just because we've had periodicals in the library, Now everybody has a Chromebook though. So does it really make sense that we still are spending money on periodicals? And those are the types of conversations that I like to have, been doing the homework prior to and being able to go through. And, I joked around when we went through Campbell High School, for example, because that's the one that I know the most because my kids both just graduated from there recently. I can really go through and be able to understand. And I think I brought up just 18 items alone just on Campbell High School. But, one of the items that I brought up was actually a clerical error where they said, oh, actually, we put that in 2 different lines. So you can go ahead and delete that one because it was a duplicate. So even finding some of those errors helps out in terms of going through line by line.
Excellent.
Just to
Yep.
follow up on that. Scott, do you guys get to see the raw data? Meaning,
What?
does the school or the town, for example, present to you their budget line items and how much they've spent within each one of those line items? Or do you actually get to see the raw data of where the money is physically being spent?
So we do end up seeing the actuals. The hard part with the school is just because of the difference between when we're talking about it and that particular budget isn't going to take effect until 7 months after we end up kind of going through it. But as far as the town is concerned, yes, the fantastic part about the town budget is we can go ahead and take a look and see what the spending trend looks like going into September and October, for example, so that way we kind of get a pulse of, okay, is this overinflated as far as the budget based on what we're seeing as far as the current spend, instead of just always looking too far back and trying to figure it out from there. So yeah, we do have a chance to be
So
able to take a
it's
look at
raw general ledger data.
Yep.
You're getting, if they bought tape, you see there was a shipment of office supplies.
Yep.
Or,
Okay.
And it's broken
That's-
down,
that was a good
by the
question.
different categories so that way you can see it. Yep.
yeah, that was a really good
Well, I
question.
work in the engineering industry and things are shifted around all the time. You might end up having to buy computers and someone left the job, so you might apply the computers to
Right.
another line item because it's a bottom line lump sum budget.
Right. It is a bottom line, but then at that point we see where the actuals are. So you'll see where one is way below and one is way above. And that's the type of conversation that we can have as to why are you playing the shell game of moving the money from here to here?
Gotcha.
That's great. That's really good. For the budgets that have been proposed this year, what areas of either of those budgets would you change and why? These are questions. These are other people. This is a smart question. It's not mine. I'm stealing it.
The budgets that have been proposed. I mean, both budget warrant articles are already below the default budgets, which is a testament to what the budget committee has already done this year and what both the town and the school side have done. So that is good news, almost, that we have to.
I don't remember
vote
a year
opposite.
we've ever gone over the default budgets.
Yeah, so, well,
honestly.
it's, right. It's good news, right? Either way, it's like
Well,
people are doing.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It kind of is, except for we're always seeing those increases. We never see a decrease in taxes, whether we
I don't
cut
know
the
if you'll ever
budgets
see a
or not.
decrease in taxes, but
No,
we'll do what we
no,
can.
you wouldn't. But some big
Um,
items come out of like when we're done paying for the fire station, when we're done paying for CHS, when we're done paying for some of the big things, we never see that tax break either.
Right, it should go.
We
back
just
up for that.
continue as if we still had all that money from that big capital expenditure we made in that budget all the time, which is kind of tough. So
Well, coming as an outsider, without having all of the, having spent months with all of the numbers in front of me and everything, my first question is on the tech side, at least for the school anyway, the tech side of the school. If we're getting, or say tech integrators are voted in, why not look at allowing students to bring their own devices rather than spending the money to provide a device for them? And I understand there's a benefit to having everybody using the same device, but you can't say that a tech integrator doesn't know how to use a Windows computer. So if you can say, hey, if we have Chromebooks, but you could also bring your own Windows computer, most people know how to use those computers, and
I think we'd run a danger of status by having somebody who's got this really expensive
I mean, you see
laptop.
that in your phone, you see that in your clothes, your car. It's already there.
You
That's
do,
not
but
gonna
when
change.
you look at the computer, it's a learning status?
If anything, I would like to see that addressed by school
Okay,
administrators.
I'm
and
sorry, I
say-
shouldn't be judging you.
It's more
I'm
like a
just,
social thing, like a social learning opportunity for students to be more accepting of different people's,
Prosperities.
decisions, right? And decisions on how they're spending their money. Because,
yeah.
but either way,
It's true, I agree.
As far as budget, as far as something that I would, one of the questions, I guess, as somebody who's been watching these meetings, is can we look at this as could this be a savings to the town because if you think about it, high school students are then going to be going to college. The computer labs in college are probably going to be a Windows computer.
And they're
I
going to
don't
be
know
bringing their own.
right. Like you
equipment.
go to standard companies, most of them are Windows computers.
Yep.
So it's not like you're providing a disadvantage for people to bring their own. Just because it's bring your own device doesn't mean they have to say you can bring any device. It has to be this operating system.
Right.
And that could save if you need 100 Chromebooks every year to replace the years, that's $25,000 every year that they're spending to get a new Chromebook for the incoming class. So maybe that's a small place that we can put a little cut in there, right? And as far as the town side, the town from what I saw is everything looks, very, very lean. I had questions about some grants that we're looking at getting I believe the police are looking at a grant for a new vehicle the grant would be fully federal funded, but now the new vehicle, does that mean for a new police station, does that mean we need an extra bay to store it? Does that mean, what is the annual cost for that vehicle? So there's questions there,
Right.
but coming as an outsider, I also don't want to come in and say, you should have done it this way, So those are just some immediate off the top of my head questions.
I'm not going to ask you this question, Scott, because I feel like you as a group have created these budgets and that you stand as a group. This is your work product. So I'm not going to ask you that question.
I could just make one comment though, Diane. I think Kate's going down the right road that, she wants to come in and be engaging.
Yep.
And ask particular departments, why do we do it this way?
Right.
There's some additional options. And I think that was something that was lacking within the organization is actually sitting down and questioning people like Troy and Dr. Jetty about, just let's have a conversation about this. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the two of us or the group of us come up with a better idea just based on even just starting that questioning. So it's a great way to be able to enter into the group and have that philosophy.
I have one more question. What is your motivation for seeking this position, Kate?
I have a strong passion for volunteering and civic responsibility. I come from an engineering background, so numbers are my thing. I can go through those, and I've built budgets before. You doing engineering with projects as an engineer, you have to build a budget, you have to execute it. And then on the planning board, I think I have a good feeling of what's most important to the town as a whole, on both school and town side. So
Scott?
I think I want to know how I can help there.
Thank you. Scott?
So I'd like to continue the work that we did over this past year. I'm very proud of the budgets that we were able to propose, especially during the pandemic and the reduction in revenues. I really look at it in terms of, there needs to be some additional voices across some of these boards. I feel like, I've had 2 kids that have gone through the school system. Both of them have gone through Campbell High School. I had one that went through, all the AP classes.
Yep.
And one that went through the CTE program. So I've seen the diversity of the different offerings there. I talked to town folks, matter of fact, somebody that had come and done some side work for me. And you know what? The common theme is, look, I'm on a fixed income. I'm older, I'm on a fixed income. And those people don't feel like their voice is being heard when the budgets are being created. And you know what? When you turn around and you say, well, it's only 50 cents more per $1,000, when that person is already struggling to keep up with the growth year after year after year. I mean, these poor people back in 2019 ended up seeing a 12% increase in the town budget and a 6.5% increase on the school budget. I mean, they can only take so much. They're going to hit a tipping point. We're going to start running older folks out of this town, and I
Yep,
don't want to
we
see
are.
that. You know, that there needs
actually
to
are
have
right
that
now.
capability. So, you know what? There needs to be somebody that looks at it, understanding the school side of things, but then also understanding the folks that don't have.
It breaks my heart, but you're absolutely right. We are seeing some of the older people having to leave. And the thing is, yes,
Scott, and Kate, you could might be able to provide input on this too, but being on the budget committee, have you ever looked, or has the budget committee ever looked how we compare to other communities, either around us or our size? Like, I would be interested as a taxpayer to know if per capita, the municipal budget is similar to another community of our size, and also on the school side of the fence, I would also as a taxpayer want to know, okay, our cost to educate each kid in town, if you take the $24 million and you divide it by the 1,300 students, it comes out in the vicinity of $18,500 per student. It'd be interesting to know how we compare against other communities. Are we low? Are we high? Or are we in the ballpark? Has anybody ever done that?
Yes, actually, Dr. Jetty had brought it up in this past budget session, brought up comparables to other towns, as well as how our school district compares to others in terms of testing, as well as money spent. I think you will find, especially this year, where we ended up seeing about a drop of 100 students in the district. Now, at this point, that's really where it jumped up to that 18.5. So, you know, that puts us out of whack going back to, you know, around the 15,000 per student. It's a little bit on the high side, but close to on par with other towns of similar sizes. You know, then the problem is you start to run into, you know, how much can we really compare ourselves to somebody like Hillsborough, for example? You know, it's hard to find comparables to Litchfield that are in southern New Hampshire. But yes, we do go ahead and take a look at those things. And that's how we also come up with some of the questions and challenges back to the school and the town around their certain expenditures.
I could say something.
yeah,
A little bit. I do remember. I did see that meeting. I think if I remember right, Dr. Jetty had said something we're around average as far as school spending, but our test scores are above average, which is great to hear from the school. If you look at our tax rate, we are something like 170 out of 220 towns in New Hampshire. So we're definitely below. Like, to say that we are some of the highest tax rate town is just not true. We're pretty low as far as tax rate. The thing is, though, the tax commitment is around number 40 out of 220 towns, which is obviously concerning. So we need to, that is one of the questions that I have, is other towns that are similar size, do they have that similar tax commitment? Or is it like they are way lower, and are we up with the bigger towns as far as tax commitment goes? Because that is obviously a problem that would need to be addressed.
what's the difference, Kate?
Your tax rate is, you know, what we're being taxed at.
But the tax commitment.
Tax commitment is all to fulfill all of the contracts and everything that needs to get done to run the town and the school. So a big driver of it is the fact that we have our own high school. So we are required, there's certain, obviously, funds that are needed to run the high school.
Okay.
So while another smaller town of around as many people as we have might be busing their kids to a bigger town's high school.
Okay.
And so their tax commitment will be less. I'm not saying that.
No, I
that's
just
the
wondered.
solution.
I had never heard of it referred to that way. I just
I can't come in, you know, and say I have an answer to it, but I see that it's a problem for sure, and I question it. Yeah.
That's really, it's good
Yet,
too.
haven't answered yet.
I love when I learn new stuff, and you know, when you get into the boards and stuff, you hear all kinds of lingo, and I know a lot of people are like, but what did that mean? You know, I was like, what did it mean? I would want to ask you, Scott. I was going to bring it in another way, but the 60-cent increase this year for the school budget, you said, is actually not an increase. It's a decrease over last year. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so the total budget number, the 20-something million dollars,
Yep.
is a 0.6% decrease in the overall number year over year. Now, when you start to factor in terms of the valuation of the homes, that's how it then ends up turning into a tax increase. But if you talk about
all the
total
homes
dollars
values have
spent,
gone,
will be less than
though.
last year.
but the value of the homes have gone up. So how does that doesn't make sense to me?
I would say you
If
would.
The
that would
value
probably
of
be
the
the
house
best
is,
question for Troy around how
Yeah.
he ends up calculating the tax rate. I
Okay.
just look, are we spending more or less dollars?
we're reevaluating those houses every year now, right? Don't they come in and every so many years?
It's
Yeah.
every four.
Every four.
Every four we have to do it. That's why you have the Warren article about the bond, the fund. So
Yeah.
that way we can level budget the, instead of having a spike every 4 years.
Okay. So I thought it was interesting that the school board did not recommend the budget.
Correct.
And I think that means that you guys probably dug way in and made those cuts.
Yep. And we heard from community members as well that, you know what, there were emails that came into the budget committee saying, you know what, why don't you just let the experts have their budget? They know more than what you know. Just go ahead and approve it. And I'm against that. There's a reason why there needs to be some questioning and being able to prioritize certain things.
Surely
And I
you
also
had some
feel that
emails on the other side as well saying, cut it. Did you?
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, it's, you know what, you have certain items that are on there. And again, it goes back to what I mentioned before. The budget includes all of their wants and needs.
Right.
And then you need to figure out like, okay, some of these wants need to be deferred to a later time, or those aren't things that we should be able to do. I've mentioned before from a funding standpoint, I think that from a school district, we really need to prioritize who we are. We can't be everything.
Right.
We have to decide what we're good at and what the community wants to specialize in. I mean, obviously, everybody needs to understand English, math, things of that nature, but you can't keep popping up programs because there's just not enough taxpayers to fund all of those programs that everybody thinks is a good idea.
Thank you very much, Scott. Kate, do you have any final words for the voters? Oh, wait. I got another question. You could always raise your hand. You can ask them. Okay, here's another good one. Aside from the police station, what do you think we have as far as other needs on the town side? What as a town do we need to look at? Taking the school out of the picture a little bit and the police department, the structure additions. What else does the town need?
Do you want to go first, Kate, or you want me to?
Why don't you go first, Scott?
Okay. So this actually brings up an excellent point that I wanted to bring up. I think as part of the discussion around a new GMS, let's be honest, we have a need as far as the police station that has been brought to the table. Okay. There, as I mentioned earlier, as we went through the library, there's extensive maintenance that needs to be done with that particular building. Anybody that's been in Talent Hall for the last 5 years probably knows that thing is being held together with duct tape at this point.
Oh, the town hall down by the fire station?
Talent Hall. Yeah.
Talent. Dara. Dara
Yeah,
Farm.
down at Dara.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when we take a look at a GMS, for example, one flaw that we had with Campbell High School is, okay, we get this great gym and everything, but there's no way to be able to block it off, so it can't be used by the community at all. That's a problem. We need to take a look at GMS, and it pains me when I hear things from the administration that says, well, you know what, this could be a $20 million project. And I'm like, $20 million project? How are you going to get the taxpayers to pay for that? Versus if you actually take a look at it and say, okay, you know what if we went ahead and put together and put a smart-sized elementary school that had a library that was off of a wing that could be blocked off. Now, all of a sudden, you know what? We can not throw money into the money pit that is the library building and still be able to offer those particular services. And then the gym, you know what? You can go ahead and allow something where the community could go ahead and use that as well. So that way, you know what? It's being used on the weekend by youth, rec sports, pickleball, other types of things. So I think if we were to take a look at that, you may actually find, and then for the police station.
So you would consolidate some of the other things that are happening
I
in
think you
town
need to
into
look
that
at
complex that
the
they're
capital
talking
improvement
about.
plan and see if there's a way to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you could also look at, I think Chairman Cutter had mentioned an idea of taking the police station and going ahead and expanding it through this area. And then, you know what? You can get a very inexpensive building to replace town hall that sits right back here. You know, and those are the types of things that I feel like if you
Outside
don't
the
have a
box.
budget committee that then says, you know what? I'm holding the line at this number, those other ideas aren't explored. And then we end up with a $20 million GMS, and we end up with a $7 million library, and we end up with a $12 million police station, and you're just never going to be able to keep up.
And that would be the budget commitment that you're talking about. See, look at how you guys can educate me. I hope everybody else has learned a lot today. Kate, did you have thoughts on that last question?
Yeah, I mean, immediately you have to go back to the capital improvement plan because that was built around community input and as far as but how to execute that, like you said, there's other ways to come up with things. Like one of the first questions that I had was, if we build a new GMS, what are we doing with those portables? Can the police then use some of those portables for some of the storage issues that they're having as far as a in the meantime solution? Same thing with Talon Hall. You go into the bathroom and it's frustrating that we welcome people outside of the community into Talon Hall and say,
I've
this
been
is
there
our
a long time,
community.
but I bet it's not better.
Right? So we have new fixtures in GMS. Can we take those out? Can we put them into Talent Hall if we were to demolish parts of GMS? Like we have a lot of resources in town that I feel like people are not, like the different boards, or I don't know if it's boards or different departments, they're not necessarily saying like, hey, I need this. Does anybody have one? Does anybody have one that we can move around here? Like there's construction companies in town. Are there any materials that they can donate towards reducing some of these costs?
They're really,
right?
you just need to ask. They're
Absolutely,
usually
right.
happy to help
Yeah.
participate in the community.
And so, and the time it takes to like the Litchfield What's Up page, they coordinate volunteer efforts. So it's not necessarily that we need to buy new of everything. It's how can things be reused? How can we reduce, that cost impact? So
I love the way you guys are thinking. I love it.
so I'd really I'd like to see that, and I'd like to
we
see
again
maintenance.
have two really good candidates. People are going to have a hard time, picking out their candidates. That we've got some prepared people here, and I love to hear your thoughts. You both really have a lot to offer. Can you just, as your final thought, I'm going to ask you to start, Scott. I just ended up. I lost my question.
Jay, do you remember what the question was?
No. Yep, got it. Had it all along. Okay, can you state your position on the budgets and what you bring to the table as your final, just kind of sum yourself up as who you are as a candidate for the budget, and why should I vote for you, Scott?
Yep. So why you would want to go ahead and vote for me is because I'm going to ask the questions and do the research that you don't have time to do. And ultimately, it's going to bring a well thought out, considerate budget for both the town and the school. Now, is everybody going to be happy with all the things that I propose as far as, motions for cuts and things of that nature? No, they're not. But that's why we have 9 people on the board. I think you'll find that there are a lot of votes that we have that are 4-5, 5-4.
I love that.
And you know what? That's good, healthy debate. There's nothing worse than seeing the 900, 900, 900. At that point, you know what? Those people are just mailing it in, and they're not really putting forth any thought or work into it. So if you want somebody that is going to continue to go down that road and bring up these things and spark conversation to try to find the best way to be able to spend the taxpayer money and make sure that all people in town are considered, then I would be the person that would be your best suited.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
Thank you.
And thank you for the service that you've done for the town so far. Kate.
Well, first, thank you guys for putting all of this on. I think this is very helpful, community transparency, anything we can do to get word out of what's going on, and so that people even have the means to form an opinion on what's going on, I think is a good thing. I have a strong passion for putting my time into my community. I and I value community input above all else. I can have my own personal opinions on things, but I am going to go back to the master plan, the capital improvement plan. I look at voting records, so people can, there can be what it sounds like is most important, but then if you look at voting records, try to listen to the community through that. While also, of course, anytime anybody can email any kind of input to planning board or budget committee or anything is a great thing. It's almost like anytime you see on the YouTube that 20 people are watching a video, it's like, yes, 20 people. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I
anybody
was all
can-
excited that we were retaining people viewing us the other day. I was like, yes, they're watching.
So I really want to be the voice that for the community to try to help guide things the right way, while also like the right way according to community priorities, and keeping that fiscal responsibility there. You can't have all the things. You can't say we really, really need this and still continue to have all these other little things adding up in the
Just like at
background.
home.
Something's got to give. So
Just like at home,
exactly.
make choices. You're going to get a great coat this year, or maybe some great boots.
So I really, I would like to continue doing that on the budget committee.
Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you very much, Scott. I've really enjoyed talking to both of you. You've got some great ideas. It's got me thinking outside the box. I hope it got everybody else thinking. Brendan, do you have any questions? Brendan, you awake over there? You good? Okay. What about you, Rob? Any questions?
No, nobody has chimed in on the YouTube stream. So
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right, thank
And
you.
we're out of here.
Okay. Thank you.
Happy Saturday. Vote, vote, vote. Please vote. Please vote.